If you had a magic wand and you had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to tell the world about why digital memorials are great, you could absolutely do that. And you can create some absolutely fantastic, content and really engaging type things to hit people around this idea of memorializing a loved one that you've lost and making sure those memories live on forever and you get to pass them down to kind of future generations. And so that as a concept, people love and they agree with, but then getting them to take action is the hard part around category creation.
Honoring loved ones who have passed away is one of humanity's longest held traditions. But how has living in a digital world changed the way we memorialize our loved ones? Welcome to Marketing Trends. I'm your host, Jeremy Bergeron. Our guest today, Lachlan Davidson, is the head of digital and marketing for the Memories Group Limited, an innovator in the digital legacy space. With marketing experience ranging from huge institutions like the National Bank of Australia to smaller up-and-coming ventures like the Memories Group, Lachlan offers a unique perspective on how to grow a new category. Tune in to hear how technological innovation is opening the door to new possibilities and how we really honor the loss of our loved ones. This episode was very insightful. Check it out. And before we get into the podcast, I want to give a special shout out to our sponsor for this show, Salesforce. Salesforce brings marketing and engagement together. If you're a marketer or a marketing leader, head over to salesforce.com/marketing for more. Now let's dive into a really cool conversation with Lachlan. I know that you're a founding member of the CMO Club in Australia, but what's the experience been like for you to be a part of this group of marketing leaders? I've interviewed a handful of them. They're all really amazing.
Yeah, look, I think first and foremost, marketers as a profession haven't been as well banded. It's a new profession relative to some of the other ones. And marketers haven't been as well banded together in terms of being supportive of each other, sharing lessons, making sure that everyone's keeping up with best practice. So for me, what I've found is just the ability to be connected with marketers that are beyond my network that I have is an incredible opportunity to try and learn from others. And you know that you don't have all the answers and you never will. But if you can contribute something in there and you can get something back from other kind of marketing leaders in terms of small questions around kind of, how to solve a problem or how to structure a team into kind of big things like, some of the big philosophical things about how to go to market around particular, products or services or customer groups. It's great to have a group of individuals that you can connect with and rely on. And the other point around it is it's actually just really lovely to connect with those people socially. Often you get some really interesting people who fall into marketing roles, and invariably they've had, varied experience across, a whole number of different industries. And it's the conversations that come from it are absolutely fascinating.
That's amazing. Well, I want to join the group right now based on that experience, that share. That's amazing. I have a sneaky suspicion there's a group of amazing folks there. I mean, like I said, we've interviewed only a couple from the club, and I'm seeing this common theme that they are brilliant marketing leaders and they connect with each other. And it is, to your point, like the evolution of the role and like what happens when you reach across industry and connect with someone else that's with sharing their perspective. And so I love that. Thank you for that. Let's start at the top and just some context for our audience out there. Describe what is the Memories Group Limited about, to describe this interesting brand that you're a part of, and then your role as head of digital marketing there.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, Memories Group invests in businesses that create new offerings in the digital legacy and the personal reflection space. So there's two main brands. So Memories, the brands include Memories, which the group started with, which is the app and website that helps you honor life and its legacies, and we can talk a bit more about that. And then Future Me, which is a really different brand that lets you reflect and grow by writing letters and sending them to the future and waiting for them to come back to you and having that amazing moment of kind of catharsis around capturing your thoughts today and then forgetting about them until they come back and delight you at some stage in the future. So our brands have attracted a combined kind of membership of over 8 million people now worldwide. And we've been engaged in partnerships with lots of marketing leading businesses, including JPI Media, which owns 170 mastheads in the UK, including The Scotsman, which is established back in 1817, the Yorkshire Post, Australia's 9 mastheads and Australian community media. So one of the things that we help those organisations do is make sure that they have a modern digital solution to obituaries. So connecting to the Memories digital memorial product, making sure that we can offer a great experience for their customers and introducing the concept of what an online memorial is. Our team at Memories Group is really growing. So we're creating a culture hopefully that's really innovative and fun and inclusive. And I've really enjoyed the opportunity to try and foster lots of individual growth and learning within the team. And certainly I've experienced that as well. And it's all, I guess, around our shared purpose, which is keeping memories alive. So there truly is a purpose behind kind of the work that we do here. You feel like you can make a real difference to people's lives, including your own. And so it's a fascinating environment to be in when you're spending time talking about kind of how people remember loved ones and how they go through the death of a loved one and go through that grieving process and the role that a digital memorial can play for people who are localized, but also people who are distributed around the world.
Now you have this really interesting background where you've come from, a pretty large institution there. You spent some time in marketing and leadership at National Australia Bank, UBank, which is, I guess, part of NAB, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So you had this really interesting experience in digital and marketing spaces. And I want to know about your journey into marketing, like how that began for you. And then I also want to get into, how did you get to this category that you're in now and having to essentially grow a category that you didn't really have a ton of exposure to? I want to hear that journey, the journey into marketing and how that led you into growing this category.
Sure. Well, look, I think marketers, I find, often will have a non-linear path into marketing. They'll be doing something else or practicing something else or studying something else, and they'll find that they've got this innate curiosity for understanding how people work, and then an innate curiosity for trying to kind of understand behavior and then change behavior. And I think that's the core of any good marketer, is that you have to get really excited every day about getting out of bed and deeply understanding how people think, and then really wanting to try and understand, well, how can I change that in the most positive way? So my life my story is the exact archetype of that. I actually started life as a lawyer, so don't judge me on that one. But I realized that practice was really so much different to kind of what I really enjoyed studying. So very early on, I had what I call my kind of first career crisis as soon as I started work out of university. And what I knew was that I really enjoyed interpreting lots of different types of information and then distilling it into a strategy. That's kind of what you did, as a lawyer. But in the fundamentals of marketing, I think, are really a bit the same. So it is about understanding your audience, understanding your competitors, really closely defining the problem that you're solving, and then building the facts for why your narrative or your pitch to that customer is really compelling. And then you got to sell it. So you have to use all the tactics that modern day marketers have at hand. And if you think about the analogy back to the way that some parts of the legal fraternity work, it's not dissimilar. So I spent some time kind of thinking about, okay, well, if it's not this, then what is it, and what are the skills that I've got, and how can I exercise some of those? And I actually went into a broad-based corporate graduate program, and I spent time in operations and distribution and marketing type roles in a financial services type company in Australia. And that was really fascinating. My time that I spent in marketing there and working with the marketing team, kind of helping build out what would be the strategy for the year ahead, and then getting into executing that was really piqued my interest. And that was it. I was hooked. I was into marketing. So it was a bit of lucky happenstance in a way, seeking broad experience and then ending up and in that space and finding that some of the skill sets that I had from kind of time studying and then starting to practice law were really transferable into being a marketer, which is not immediately intuitive, but certainly worked in my case. And so that was it. I was a marketer, I was in financial services, and so I spent time growing through a couple of different organizations there. So in general insurance and in health insurance, and then into banking. And I spent quite a number of years at National Australia Bank, as you said, in the banking space, and thinking about kind of different customers and different challenges that exist there. For some people, and some marketers, that's their worst nightmare, right? You're working on products that are not quite grudge products, like people don't hate them, but if you didn't have to have health insurance, if you didn't have to have, a loan to buy your house, then you probably wouldn't, right? So I find that incredibly invigorating as a challenge as a marketer, where you kind of go, well, how do you get someone to choose when they don't actually love what you do? They love the outcome of what they get from your product, but they don't love you and they don't love your product itself. And so I think that is an incredibly interesting challenge for any marketer to go into a brand that doesn't have necessarily that brand love, and that any small kind of mistake in the service proposition makes it really hard for the marketers to try and recover that, and obviously for the rest of the organization as well. My time kind of at National Australia Bank spanned a number of different roles. So lots of executional type ones around trying to drive acquisition of new customers and engaging existing ones, making sure they're getting the most out of their banking experience, some leadership stretch and capability in a couple of different places, and then getting into kind of, sweating marketing technology and getting the most out of marketing technology. I think one of the things that I love about marketing and financial services is obviously the volume of kind of customer behavior data that you have that you can utilize to create better experiences. And if you are motivated at all by trying to make sense of all of that and bring it all together and get it together in kind of what are big and complex organizations, you can make a really big difference. And so I was lucky enough to work on a number of projects that I felt changed the way that some customers thought about their relationship, with the bank for the positive. So that was all going kind of really well, really loved it. And then got to this point where I went, okay, so I've been in banking now for 7 years and I'm a marketer in a bank. And like, is this it? Is banking me? Like, am I going to keep going in banks? Do I go and work in, more product roles or distribution roles? Or it's an enormous industry. There's so much that you can do in that space. Or do I double down? Is it marketing? Do I stay in the marketing space, and do I try and get some diversity of experience and diversity of category? And that's certainly what I chose to do. I think the final parts of my time at National Australia Bank, you just mentioned I worked on Ubank. So Ubank is NAB's kind of digitally led subsidiary, which is a bit of a misnomer these days. All banks are pretty digitally led, but 12, 13 years ago when Ubank was founded, it was pretty innovative in the Australian market. And I think that kind of piqued my interest around digitally led products and getting much more into the software space. And I started looking around for what types of customer-focused technology businesses existed in Australia, and thinking about kind of, well, how do you go beyond the Australian context into the global context and potentially work for an organization that has global reach and scale, but kind of puts that all together with a great digital experience. And that's kind of what landed me at Memories Group, which is a pretty unique proposition, as we were talking about before, in terms of trying to create a category around memorializing loved ones in a digital way. And so to talk about that for a second, category creation, wow, that's been the big challenge and the big learning for me in going into this role. Kind of when you're working in banking or working in health insurance, the need is defined. So people know they really want to buy that house, and so they go, well, how am I going to buy it if I don't have all the cash and I might need to get a loan? I really want to save some money and I can get a good savings rate out of a bank, or I really want to make sure I've got the right health insurance to look after my health or my family's health. The need's defined, and so what you're selling is basically on kind of competitive propositions around why should someone choose, because the triggers to buy are already there. The need to buy is already there. You're not trying to convince people that this is the thing that they should like. So a phrase that I often use with our team internally here is kind of, guys, we've got to take a step back. Like, we're not selling another brand of cola next to the other brand of cola sitting in the fridge in your local convenience store. Like, that we don't have someone coming in who knows that they want a cola and we're just trying to get them to choose. We actually have to explain to them, what is a cola and why do you like it and what does it taste like and what are the benefits when you actually drink it and how much does it cost and why is that good value? And so the challenge from a marketing perspective is far greater. You're not tapping into a pool and trying to win your fair share. You're trying to create that pool of interested individuals. And so how you do that is really fascinating. If you had a magic wand and you had, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to tell the world about why digital memorials are great, you could absolutely do that. And you can create some absolutely fantastic, content and really engaging type things to hit people around this idea of memorializing a loved one that you've lost and making sure those memories live on forever. And you get to pass them down to kind of future generations. And so that as a concept, people love and they agree with it, but then getting them to take action is the hard part around category creation. So often people will go, yeah, cool idea. I love that. I should definitely do that. I'll do it. I'll do it maybe tomorrow. I'll do it next week. Oh, I didn't do it. So finding those trigger points, finding the ways that you can inject yourself into kind of moments of emotion that really matter has been part of the learning journey for us in terms of category creation. I think part of that for Memories Group has been one of the pivots we've made is we still are absolutely a B2C type business where we present kind of the digital proposition to people globally. And we have, over 500,000 people who've created memorials for loved ones so far, which is amazing.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's enormous. 195 countries. You think about all the different kind of customs of death that exist. Like it's a thing. It's becoming a thing. Digital memorialization. So, I think the most challenging part, as I said, is getting people to take action and connecting it to kind of emotive moments, and that's true for lots of different kind of categories, and certainly so in this space. And so one of the things that we're trying to do around category creation is just create exposure around attaching ourselves to existing behaviors. And I think that that's the biggest marketing lesson that I've learned in category creation is it's really, really hard to get people to do something new. It's much easier to kind of hitch your wagon to something that they're already doing and then go, hey, I'm here, think about this. And for us, that's really about the moment of funerals and around the moment of making sure that you're relevant in that space, making sure that you're providing additional value in that space, because ultimately a digital memorial lives on well past or forever, kind of past the moment of the funeral. Right. But why is it important to do it then? That's our trigger point, and that's why we really need to activate around that point, and that's why working with kind of reseller partners is important for us to help us position the product. So it's a fascinating journey trying to get through deeply understanding different customs and traditions around death, understanding behaviors, like what behaviors do we attach ourselves to, and then how do you package your proposition in a really pithy way where people get it and they go, oh yeah, that is one of the things I need to do when I've got a whole lot of stuff that's on the top of my list. Number one is looking after myself and looking after my family going through a grieving process.
I just want to say that was incredible. I'm sitting here. I know our producers are probably doing the same thing. I mean, just your story into the context. I mean, it was just, you laid it out so wonderfully, and that was so interesting all the way until, you talk about this category, which I want to ask you about a little bit more. But just, that was exceptional, Lachlan. Thank you for that. Great context, and just, that was fantastic. So one question is, okay, coming from an NAB, have, a big organization, a lot of resources, a lot of support, there's probably this element of speed and velocity that you're moving an organization like that. Now you're in this new category. What was kind of that balance for you of just, you're stepping into a whole new world, and you also likely don't have the same level of supported resources because it's a smaller, leaner thing. Is this more, is there tension for you around like, oh man, we can't get there fast enough? Or do you feel like there was more than enough on your plate to, do you know what I mean? Like,
I know exactly what you mean. I think back to kind of, when I was trying to build out a couple of marketing teams at National Australia Bank and hiring for new roles. And one of the things that I would really try and test when hiring for new people is their willingness and excitement about trying to get the job done as well as doing the job. So your job as a marketer, sure, create demand, drive sales, drive engagement, drive retention, or, make sure you're building a fantastic brand. All of those things, tick, tick, tick. You can get people with, great marketing skill sets. They have to also be motivated in a big organization that is customer-led, sales-led, finance-led, not necessarily marketing-led in terms of kind of banking and financial services traditionally. You have to be really excited about working out how to get that job done. And that means working really well with others. So, 33,000 employees or so at NAB. You got to tell people that you've never met before what you're doing and why you should do it and why they should support you in doing it and why that's going to create a great outcome for your customers and a great outcome for your colleagues and also a great outcome for shareholders. And so that's what I mean about being just as passionate and enthusiastic about getting the job done as doing the actual job. That's the big difference walking into, a smaller place. So I joined Memories with about 24 employees or so. And I kind of knew what I was walking into. I was like, great, I'm going to be able to see everyone. I'm going to know all their names and their faces. This is going to be fantastic. The big kind of challenge in kind of changing that and going through that transition is, you're right. It's the classic things around going, well, there's not a whole team that does kind of marketing analytics now. There's either no one or there's one person, or you try and kind of wear multiple hats at the same time. It's the classic startup experience where you have to be really agile in the way that you think about, right, today, my job is to wear 5 hats. One of them is going to be around marketing analytics. One of them is going to be thinking about planning for the year ahead. One of them is going to be thinking about how do I solve this particular executional kind of problem we've got today. And getting into the mindset of being able to kind of context switch really, really quickly, and then also not fall into the trap of going, I'm really busy and I'm doing lots of stuff, therefore I'm valuable. being able to, at the end of the day or the start of the day in particular, have this rhythm of kind of going back up and going, well, where am I adding value? Am I adding value in the right spots, or am I just kind of being really busy doing good things and people like what I'm doing? There's a difference, I think, because you can chase your tail in a startup for sure, when you have to be kind of so broad and dexterous in the way that you kind of change between jobs and roles. And I think it's absolutely fantastic for any marketer to try and seek out experiences with really different scales of organizations. You'll find out what you love. You'll find out where your sweet spot is. You'll find kind of the pros and cons of each of them. But it makes you a better marketer. Being really resourceful in kind of a startup scale up is absolutely something that I think that everyone should do. It gives you a really innate understanding of kind of the whole mechanics of the shooting break and how you get things done. And I think working in a big marketing team is fascinating as well, because you get to work with some absolute specialists in their field. So I talked about kind of, data science experts. I think about kind of the banking context and some of the amazing brains and people that we got, that I got to work with, who would, put together things that I couldn't even conceptualize. Even if they tried to teach me it for 2 weeks, I would kind of go, that is amazing. I love the outputs. The inputs seem great.
Right.
The big black box in the middle, I'm glad that's you guys, not me.
Exactly.
You get to work with some pretty incredible people who are real specialists rather than generalists. And I think, as I said before, I think for any marketer, the opportunity to work across both will make you much better and allow you to create much more value as you go through your career.
Talking about the category, creating a new category, and like, what are you learning about the segments within the category? Because you have these different generations that all have to deal, with death, Gen Y and Z and baby boomers, right? And all these things. So how are you narrowing down the path of personalization with all of these segments within this new category? Or do you look at kind of data, okay, what generation is most, is actually dying more right now and who's supporting them? Like, to me, you could get really into those, the details there.
Yeah.
And what's been the approach? Yeah.
I think, the approach is we've tried kind of two different ways and kind of get a good balance between them. Absolutely, we have tested and have some really good hypotheses around, who is this kind of digital memorialization product for. There is still, big generalizations, but there is still a generation of kind of older people around the world who are not digital natives. And so the idea of going, oh, what do you mean? I've got to get, photos and videos and memories from people and put them all into this place. And then what is that place and how would I do that? And how do I invite Jeremy to do that? I don't understand. And so having the mindset of user experience design being designing for that person versus designing for kind of the masses is a really nice principle to have, because it means that if you can get someone who's not a digital native to get it and be able to do it, everyone else will be able to do it with their eyes closed, right? Like, my son can navigate an iPad and he's a toddler. So if he can do it, then, there's people who are much older and less digitally native who can do it as well. So whilst you kind of think about that generation and kind of the tech barrier that exists, then it kind of makes you think about the kind of generations below, and you go, well, who are the family and friends of that generation? Who's going to be creating this memorial for them? Is it sons and daughters? Is it brothers and sisters? And so we've done lots of testing to try and work out who the right person is, and absolutely we narrowed down to say that it is those who are not the closest to the loved one, but still close, who really care about making a difference. And the reason that we found that matters is that people are looking to help or do something when someone passes away. They want to find a way to ease their own grief and ease the grief of those around them. And this is one of the ways that people can do that. So if you're really, really close, like you're the partner of someone who has passed away, you've got a lot on your mind. You've got to think about, well, am I going to have a funeral, and what does that look like, and what were their last wishes, and what's happening around kind of wills and probate, and how do I manage their assets? And there's lots and lots and lots of administrative type things that you're trying to do in a moment that's one of the worst moments in your life. So your brain is full. And so having a brand knock on the door and be like, hey, you should do this thing, it's really, really good. That's where you get the whole, I completely agree, it's really, really good. I'm busy. Like I've got stuff on right now. And so that's why our proposition resonates really well with someone who's going, hey, I'm grieving too. I'm really close because I'm the cousin of the person who died, or I'm the kind of, the son or daughter who's not the son or daughter who's organizing the funeral. I'm kind of, the youngest brother, or, whatever it is. They're looking for a way to be helpful. They're looking for a way to make sure that they honor their loved one who passed away. And Memories really gives them an opportunity to do that. So thinking about kind of how you break down the different audiences that exist around this product, absolutely, from a targeting and an action perspective, it needs to be that kind of, second ring around that person who's passed away. But when you're building a category, ultimately you have to be thought of in a buying situation. That's what you're aiming for as a marketer. You want to be there, you want to be known, and you want to have those trigger points that go, hey, I remember memories, I should do that thing. I should start up a memorial for that loved one who I lost. Or they haven't heard of you, and you insert yourself into kind of the process somewhere to make sure that you are thought of in kind of that moment. And so in doing that, it becomes a broad-based proposition again. And so that's where, when if you think about attaching yourself to those trigger moments around a funeral, and you have a digital memorial that might have kind of a digital guest book component, all of the people who go to that funeral and who are able to sign kind of a digital guest book get exposure to your brand. And so in terms of category building, it goes well beyond advertising and much more into kind of how do you get your product into the hands of as many people as possible, even if they're not going to be your customer today. And so that is a big, big goal for us, is how do we get as many people as possible exposed to the product so that they kind of have that memory association, pardon the pun, around I've seen that memory thing. That was fantastic. Bob passed away, 3 years ago, and they created that memorial. That's right. I should definitely do that. And so when they fall into that buying situation, you'll already kind of have that kind of memory structure, and they can remember kind of the value that you created around that family. So as I said, category creation, you can go massive with advertising. It's a really expensive way to spend a lot of money really quickly, but the much better way is actually to get your product in the hands of as many people as you possibly can. And with a digital product, that's much easier, obviously, than physical products. So hence the success of lots of software products on the internet.
What channels have been working really well for you?
So thinking about the channels that are really successful for us, there's a mix of kind of the B2C type traditional advertising channels that you might use. So search has been really successful for us in finding people who are searching for things adjacent to digital memorials. So they might be searching for ways to make the funeral service better. So they might be searching for ideas for eulogies, ideas for kind of funeral slideshows, et cetera, and we position our product around that to say, hey, absolutely, you need to solve that, and here's some ways to solve that. Have you thought about a digital memorial? And have you thought about the benefits of a digital memorial? And so introducing our product next to those existing things that people are looking for is really, really important and works well for us. The second thing that has really worked well is actually getting out and partnering. So it's actually a B2B2C type approach, which is going to people who exist and serve existing needs around those who are losing loved ones. So you can think about kind of funeral directors and funeral homes, people doing kind of pre-planned or prepaid type funerals, people who are doing cemeteries and crematorium type businesses as well. They are all dealing with the people that we want to work with every day. And so one of the shortcuts for us is to partner with those organizations, help them provide a better service to their customers through having a digital memorial. And the benefit to us is actually accessing the people who are kind of going through the process of organizing a funeral kind of every day, week, month in the year.
What are some of the trends that you're paying attention to just in the space you're in, or just broadly speaking around marketing? Are there any trends that you're noticing, paying attention to, utilizing in your own work?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the ones that we're watching with interest is the idea of how people interact with each other digitally. So there's lots of conversations at the moment about kind of the metaverse, and some people roll their eyes when they hear about that. They're like, oh, it's a solution looking for a problem. Like and you can take a whole bunch of different approaches or angles to thinking about that. I think it's really relevant when you think about kind of losing a loved one and kind of perpetuating the memories that exist around that person. So if you think about the intersection of kind of augmented or virtual reality, the idea that, when someone passes away, one of the awful things that happens is that over generations, people forget about them. And there's just photos that exist in a photo album and people kind of can see what they look like, but no one really knows who that person was. So one of the things that's really important in a number of different cultures is to kind of perpetuate or kind of pay respect to the people who have passed before you, and keeping their memory alive and being able to kind of hand that down to kind of, grandchildren of grandchildren and say, hey, do you know your great-great-grandmother, did this and this and this? What an amazing woman. Like, how fascinating is that? And people are enthralled with kind of their lineage and enthralled with who are they and why am I here and why did I get here, and seeking meaning and seeking connection in kind of who they are and their context today, and the family that's gone before them often isn't really interesting conversation to have around that. So for us, being able to find new technologies that help bring that to life in an even better way, so let's think beyond photos and videos, And let's think into kind of, well, how do you kind of have, future messages that happen? That's one of the product features in our platform at the moment, is the ability to, for someone who might know that in the future they might not make it to their, son or daughter's 21st birthday or whatever the scenario might be, they can record messages of themselves and leave them for those amazing occasions, which is an awfully sad use case, but what a great solution for that person who feels like that they can be part of someone's life, after they've gone. And so any technology that exists around that helps people get into the headspace of connecting with those they've lost and helps them through a grieving process is really, really interesting to us. So we're certainly keeping a really close eye on how that plays out across a number of different industries. The other thing that's a challenge for kind of any marketer at the moment who's spending money in kind of, all the digital space is just around privacy. So one of the things that Memories Group prides itself on is absolutely our approach to privacy. There's sensitive data, and then there's sensitive data, and your memories of your mum or dad or uncle or whoever it is are incredibly personal. The other product that we haven't actually spoken about, which is Future Me, this is people writing letters to themselves or others in the future and receiving them back at a kind of a future date. Again, some of those are lighthearted and whimsical and beautiful. Some of them are really, really deeply personal, not necessarily positive. There's not much. Your innermost thoughts are probably kind of the most important thing that you could protect from a data and privacy perspective. So as a marketer, when I think about kind of making promises around kind of data and privacy, you have to be able to live up to that. And you have to think about the way that you're addressing kind of your advertising, the way that you're using your customer data to try and attract new customers, and taking a really strong ethics-based approach to the way we do that. So certainly keeping an eye on the way that both the practice of utilization of data and marketing and then the ethical considerations that go with that play out together is really important for me at the moment.
Over 500,000 users, 195 countries. Any surprising kind of insights gathered from, people that are, using this platform already? There's so much, like you said, people handle death differently in different cultures. And then there's the digitization of this industry that you're serving in this category. Are any surprising insights gathered from, other cultures or countries around the world?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a couple of things that spring to mind immediately. So one of the things that is a fantastic lesson that, anyone in marketing needs to remind themselves of every single morning when they wake up is that you are not the customer. So it's really easy to fall into the trap of kind of going, oh yeah, this is how people should use our product because this is the way that I think about it. Yep. And when you see people in other countries and with different cultural behaviors and practices using their product, you're like, whoa, I never thought about them using it that way. I never thought about them kind of, being able to put things together. One of the things that we spoke about internally kind of a few weeks ago was one of the traditions that exists in Japan around honoring loved ones. And part of that tradition is really around someone being able to kind of look after that person after they've gone. So, that's, make offerings and making sure that they are, that person's being looked after they've gone. And that's really, really important in the Japanese culture to make sure that you are looked after you've gone. It doesn't necessarily have to be your family. It usually is, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. And so one of the big challenges that's happening in Japan at the moment is that, with lower birth rates, et cetera, they're kind of going, well, who's looking after me? Like, if I don't have children, like what's happening? Like, do I just, have a tombstone on a grave on the side of a hill and does it disappear into the ether at some point? Like, what actually happens? It's been fascinating for us to kind of get into, those different cultural nuances and say, well, what's the role that our product plays within there? Because, we can't have the assumption, the way it works in the US and the UK and Australia, which is, hey, you have a funeral service and there might be a celebration of life or a wake or something that, occurs then. And then you have this beautiful digital memorial that people can share with each other or keep to themselves. That kind of lives on and on. It's a different way of kind of thinking about the product. And so every day I'm surprised by a new cultural nuance and have to rethink kind of, okay, well, what does that mean in the context of how we position our product? We still believe in the core value proposition. I don't think that really, really changes, but it's about how that's presented as valuable to kind of the end customer. The next thing that I think's really been super surprising in the way that we've kind of taken this product to market is how people interact with a digital memorial. And so we get some memorials that have, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kind of memories put in there, people leaving comments, people putting, videos, people sharing, an amazing outpouring of grief, right? And you'd think, well, surely, like, aren't all memorials like that? And the answer is no, because people really want to treat them differently. There's lots of memorials where there is a single person who has set it up. There's a single person who's, put something in there, and that's it. It's theirs. No one else sees it. They haven't shared it with anyone else, and it's a personal thing that they have with the person that they have lost. And so when as a marketer, I think about, sure, we're trying to attract these people in, and then how do I drive engagement? How do I make sure that they're getting the most value out of this product that they've purchased as possible? And how do I make sure I prompt them to say, hey, you could add another memory at this point. You could, invite contributors, because a memorial is much more rich. You've really got to think about how you break down kind of the homogeneity of a group of people globally who might want to memorialize a loved one, and split that into kind of different behavioral nuances, and then trade that off against kind of, how we think we're providing great service to customers and what those benchmarks should look like.
The learnings and lessons in creating a category like this, and also like you're at this really interesting intersection of where technology is meeting this life event essentially. So you get to be a part of the wave that we're inevitably heading this way. And so I think Memories timed it quite well, if you ask me, because this is where we're going, and I could see AR and VR, to your point, being another experience that maybe Memories is going to be at that table as well, where I can hook up to some gear or some kind of a wearable, and then I can like sit in front of my loved one, right? While they share story. All that's coming.
There's exactly, it really is. There's some fascinating technology that exists even around not even real memories, around constructed experiences with people who aren't there, and that technology exists today, where you can put on the VR headset and be there, and some machine learning is sat behind kind of and crunched a whole bunch of data around a person and how they would react in conversation, and you can almost get kind of conversational AI going on.
Wow.
And that's a bit freaky. We're thinking carefully about how is that relevant? Is it relevant around that loved one? Like, what do people actually want? Again, it gets to that whole thing around, you have to be forward thinking in the way that you're kind of, that consumers might want to use your product, but at the same time, not getting distracted by the bright and shiny, and as I said before, finding solutions that are looking for problems.
Take us inside of, the last time you had kind of one of these, like, these moments of, was it a campaign, a strategy you saw, just a win, a recent win that, maybe no one was with you, but you pulled the yes, we got this, right? Like, take us inside a recent win.
I think the one that we shared as an organization was coming to the realization that we needed to kind of have two target audiences for our business. So as I said, Memory started as a B2C software type product and continues to exist in that sense. But then going through those lessons and kind of the pains of kind of category creation and how do you do that, the big kind of yes moment happened when we decided, okay, great, well, we need to attach ourselves to those existing behaviors that happen around someone losing a loved one. What's the best way to do that? Let's find organizations that do that. And there was a massive yes moment where it all just clicked and we went, that's going to make sense. And then we signed our first really big kind of partnership to be able to offer that. And we signed a partnership with a group called InvoCare in Australia, who's on the Australian Stock Exchange and one of the largest funeral services providers in Australia, New Zealand, and Southeast Asia. And the ability to partner with an organization like that has such incredible reach and history across numerous funeral brands. And then the reimagining of kind of what our experience was, no longer were as a team, as a digital product team and a marketing team, where we're building just for the end consumer. We're also building kind of a B2B proposition. So how do we sell it into B2B? And then how does that translate through into B2C? So that was an absolute yes. I think we found, another way to continue to grow this category and position Memories as the market leader in that space.
I love it. Great example. Okay, you ready to have some fun lightning round questions?
Let's do it.
We have Lachlan Davidson, Head of Marketing and Growth at Memories Group Limited in Australia. Before I ask you the first question, I have to give a special shout out to Salesforce. Salesforce sponsors Marketing Trends. So for marketers and marketing leaders out there, when you think about marketing and engagement, head over to salesforce.com/marketing. Now, lightning round questions. Lachlan, are you ready?
I'm ready to go.
Okay, now these are lightning round questions, so try to be as like quick, answer from the heart, answer from the gut, and do your best. Okay, first question. What was the last time you tried something new? What was the last thing you tried that was new?
Oh, for me, I'm all about new experiences. And so last time I tried something new was actually an opportunity with a mate to go skydiving, something that was on my bucket list for ages and kind of got a little bit hooked. And so I'm just looking for new ways to get out there and get up there again. I didn't think that I'd love it as much as I did.
Okay, cool. What is one life lesson that you learned the hard way?
This one, I know what it is, and I always take a deep breath before I say it because I need to remind myself of it all the time, which is that you can't do it all yourself. As much as I take, one of my personal drivers is being able to execute well and please others, whether that be at home, whether that be at work, it doesn't really matter. But being able to say, hey, I need help. Hey, someone else can do this better than me. Yeah, I learn that lesson every day.
There's so much wisdom in that. Yeah, I love that. I love that answer. What's one activity that makes you lose track of time?
Running. Running's a big thing for me. I can strap the shoes on and go for a run, and then my brain just wanders and I get back and I can't tell you what I thought about, but I feel much better. So going for a beautiful long run, getting out there in nature. I don't care if it's raining. I don't care if it's 35 degrees centigrade for all you playing in the US. You go, hey, that's cold. I absolutely love it.
Do you go music while you run or no sound while you run?
No, absolutely no sound. Absolutely no sound. Okay. I find it's a real distraction from just letting my thoughts. For me, running is a physical thing, but it's also a mental health thing. Like letting my brain have the time to relax and just go places that it wants to go. Sometimes I'll think about something really profound. Sometimes I'll be thinking about what I'm going to have for dinner. But it's that mental kind of meditative state around kind of the rhythm of your steps. It just works for me. And if my wife can attest that if I don't get out there and do it, then I'm a worse human.
Okay. This is an interesting one. Hypothetically, would you rather lose all of your old memories or never be able to make new memories?
I would prefer never to be able to make new memories. Like the data guy in me would say, hang on, hopefully you've still got more than half of your life to go. So surely don't you want kind of the greater volume of memories? But actually there's people who I don't want to forget and who I knew in my past, and I'd be poorer for not remembering them.
Okay. What's something that you are betting on for the future? It could be personally excited about and betting on, or professionally excited about and betting on, but what's something you're betting on for the future?
I'm betting on the next generation of kind of entrepreneurs and business people thinking about ways to solve kind of organizational and societal problems with the utilization of technology, not just to make money, not just to kind of have the next kind of tech startup that does amazingly well and solves a problem about sending emails or whatever it is, that actually solves some really big business problems. And I think we're starting to see green shoots of kind of the collectivism that will allow that to happen.
That's great. Let's say you have to build a marketing team from scratch starting tomorrow. What's the first role you're hiring and why?
Everything starts with marketing in really deeply understanding the customer and then being able to understand the business context and bringing those two things together. So someone that's really good on the marketing strategy side, is it like the tactics that fall off that? Sure, like people can muddle their way through that. But if you don't have that bit up front right, then you can have the best kind of media buyers in the world, they'll fall flat.
What do you make of all these brands, a growing number of brands that are exploring this potential of virtual worlds?
I think that it's important when any new technology comes out to go and explore it and find the use cases for it. And some will be good and some will be absolute rubbish, and that will only be proven in kind of the fullness of time. And so, there's people who get really excited about kind of, exploring new virtual, worlds or kind of whatever the kind of new technology flavor of the month is. I love it. I love that people are exploring it. I love that people are advocates for it. I love that people kind of say, this is going to be the next big thing, because you need that as part of the discourse. And then you need people who are going, no, it's not. You're crazy. Like, this is the way that it's going to go. I think the ability to have that discourse, the ability that, to have humans debate what's going to come next is actually the important part, more so than the technology itself.
If you had access to a time machine, where and when would you go?
I would love to go back to kind of the 60s, 70s kind of vibe, 1960s, 1970s kind of vibe.
Okay.
That's kind of my dad and mum's era. I just think it seemed like an amazing time for particularly people in the Western world to be in. Incredible changes from a societal perspective, incredible changes from kind of a way people lived and the way they did things. Being part of some of that, I think, would be absolutely fascinating.
Okay. What is your favorite app on your phone?
Well, apart from the Memories app, which everyone should download, the app that I use every day, look, you know what? I was going to try and not say it, but it's got to be TikTok at the moment. Like I'm a cliche in that. But it's just, it really has, it has the entertainment factor for me. There's kind of people I follow and I learn things from. that short form video content just nails it. I fully understand as a marketer that all I'm doing is feeding the dopamine in my brain and scrolling to the next thing. So, when you sit there at 10 o'clock at night and you're like, I really got to stop scrolling now. It gets you. It gets you. But I do think that there's real utility in that. I love the TikTok app.
I'm with you. I think I confess I share that one with you. I also confess that I've deleted that app at least once on my phone and reinstalled it.
Me too.
Because it really is unlike any other app that where this motion of scrolling, all of a sudden time disappears and it literally has been an hour, right? It's like, well, wait a second, where did time go? It's a little too good. So
it is a little too good.
What's a skill, one skill that you believe everyone should have?
The ability to be quiet and empathize.
Love that answer. If you could effortlessly pick up a new skill in a moment, what skill would that be?
I think this is going to sound like a really, really strange one. My alter ego in another life would have been a racing car driver, and so you can see the 5-year-old little kid in me coming out there. The skill set to drive a car really fast and the opportunity to do that, amazing. Personally fulfilled. Okay. If I won the lottery tomorrow, that'd be my life.
Okay. Last question. What is one thing that you would like to do this year that you've never done before?
This is not one experience, but a set of experiences. I'm really personally fulfilled. We talked at the top of the show about having a toddler in my life. I'm incredibly excited he's just at the age where I can start taking him to kind of museums and zoos and exhibitions. And I'm just so excited to experience those things in a new way, in a new light with him. I've held off going to different things myself personally because I'm like, I want to wait until I can take him there and see it through his eyes and see the joy and wonder in learning. Love
that. I mean, it's all the great achievements for me, nothing compares to being a dad. It's the magnum opus, I think, for us, man. It's the greatest thing ever is to be a father.
I could not agree more.
Yeah, that's great.
Could not agree more.
Lachlan, thank you so much for being here on Marketing Trends. You are an exceptional human being, really wicked smart marketer, and I love the journey and the path you've had going from big business to small, lean, fast-growing new business in a new category. So Lachlan, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me, Jeremy. Fantastic conversation.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to this channel for more great marketing interviews with today's top industry leaders. And thank you to our partners at Salesforce. Salesforce brings marketing and engagement together. Head over to salesforce.com/marketing.